As we head towards closure on this morning's edition of News and Views right here on Salam Media, and today being the 31st of August, the final day of Women's Month in South Africa, and throughout the entire month we have been featuring women in the media, and my absolute pleasure actually to host the associate editor at the Daily Maverick, Ferial Haffejee. Ferial, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome.
Walaikum salam. It's lovely to be on Salam Media, even though it is a sad day in Nayat.
Well, definitely, definitely. In fact, with what is actually playing out, and the tragedy in Johannesburg, which we just covered a few minutes ago, and clearly, a lot. And I'm sure there's a lot that you will be writing about that as well,
Yeah.
through the Daily Maverick, Ferial. But Ferial, I'm just looking at obviously someone like yourself, and I must say it's an honor actually honoring you. In this Women's Month and women in the media in particular. Now, you are obviously, you wear so many hats and you've made your mark in journalism. You become a household name, being an editor, being a journalist, global moderator, an author, speaker. There's so many hats that you're wearing, and clearly, we must say that we're actually proud of what you've achieved to date, Ferial.
Jazakallah. I'm really, really grateful to hear you saying that. I admire Salam Media very much, and I really learn from humanitarian journalism. So now I'm trying to move into that field. I read new humanitarian. I listen to Salam Media, and I try and understand what's our role as journalists in the course of humanitarianism.
Yes. Now, very, let's take a step back. And when you set out to be a journalist and you wanted to feature in the media, just take us through, some of the key issues, your ambitions at that point in time. What was your thinking like? What were you expecting? What were you hoping to achieve?
So I grew up in Bosmont, which is just a little bit out of Joburg City, and I always wanted to be a journalist. But I guess my mom, like most mothers of the time, she didn't think that was an appropriate or safe vocation for her daughter. But I was always impelled by considerations of justice and of freedom, and for me, the only career that I could see would somehow help those ends was to become a journalist. So I was pretty persistent, even in the face of a mother who might have preferred her daughter to become, say, a lawyer or something like that in those days. Eh?
Well, definitely. But, obviously you've grown. You've grown so much to the extent that where today you sit as the associate editor at the Daily Maverick. But I'm sure along the way, there must be a lot of memories that flash by, but also at the same time, looking at some of the highs, some of the lows, some of the challenges that you went through to get to where you are today, Feril.
So many. So I suppose the first thing is that I was extremely fortunate to be able to do what I wanted to do, and my big dream was always to become the editor of the Mail and Guardian. So with Trevor Ngube and Hussein Kajika, when I was appointed editor. Editor in chief of the Mail and Guardian, that was definitely a highlight for me. And then later to move on to City Press, a very grounded historic publication in Johannesburg and in South Africa, also a highlight. And then I decided I wanted to go and learn other things. And I wanted to learn online media and I wanted to learn streaming, which is what we're doing now. So to serve these years at the Huffington Post and then later the Daily Maverick, truly honorable. And now I find myself, what my main job is now is to report Johannesburg, the state of the city, and what happens to the people in our city. So always I find it an enormous honor. And then, of course, I've been lucky enough to travel and to hold international roles. I must, however, say that I find much deeper gratification in returning to community, which is what I try and do today.
Yes, and also, Ferial, I think since the advent of democracy in this country, so much has happened in the country, and obviously, I've followed a lot that you've written, and also the publications that you have been associated with, and looking at where we are on a in the political landscape, for want of a better term, and a lot of the corruption, the whole issue surrounding your book on Zondo as well. So, so all of that must have kept you extremely busy and kept you on your toes.
Certainly has. I mean, I don't want to dodge your question of the challenges and what was posed to me by the producers. They said, as a Muslim woman, what are the challenges? So I'll share with you just some of them very quickly. On the first day where I was announced as the editor of the Mail and Guardian, the Zionist Federation lady at the time, she Facebooked, or I don't know how she put out a statement saying that now with Yusuf Abramji, Muhsin Williams, and Ferial Haffejee, is kind of this Muslim takeover of the media. And that's pretty much something that we've had to deal with a long time. It didn't have a name at the time, but today we would call it Islamophobia. So obviously, you have to overcome those stereotypes, you have to fight against them. And then obviously, I've had occasions where the most difficult in my time as a journalist is where your own community is asking you great questions of yourself, of your decisions. I remember Kanita Anta at the time, at one of the times, writing me an open letter saying, "You're such an irresponsible woman," and of course, those things make you think quite deeply. But I've always found that at the same time, you'll find great wisdom in the community to help you on your way, to put you on the right track, and certainly to try and keep you there. But it hasn't been without difficulties. Let me not say it's all been easy. Huh?
Well, I'm sure, Ferial, but also, when I look at you and I look at media, when I look at mainstream media as well, and we see that we know the direction mainstream media has actually headed, sensation is being sensational in more ways than one, embedded journalism, carrying a certain agenda, and to be open, to be objective, to tell the truth against even adversity on many an occasion. And I'm sure you've seen a lot of that actually playing out during your career, as somebody in the media.
The last part, I suppose, the thing I've been not enjoyed, but that's helped me learn a lot was covering the Zondo Commission for almost 4 years and then writing a book about it. And for me, the reason I found it so interesting and gratifying was that it was an aim, an ambition by a country to refine its moral center. And I think it was a very rich experience for me and an important one because it's enabled me to locate any act of corruption in a finding of the Zondo Commission. Obviously, the challenge now is to make good on that commission's work and see how we can stop the trains of corruption. Because, to be honest, I feel like they still continue to run. On the other hand, I also watched you and your team very carefully in December at the ANC conference, the last time we had an occasion to be together. And what I love about what you do is that there's no slant in the news. You just tell the story and you tell it straight up. And I think there are lessons in there for us as investigative journalists and from places that are more, I suppose, more opinionated in how we think of news, and also the focus on humanitarianism. Humanitarianism. I'm inspired, influenced by Salam Media, by the new humanitarian website, and then of course by Gift of the Givers, which probably, if you ask me, is my greatest inspiration in the world at this time.
Well, definitely. And also, I think at the end of the day, Ferial, I know there's been a lot of criticism that has been leveled against you, but you're not
Yes.
here to be the flavor of the month. And, we've seen it even coming through from
Sometimes it's nice to
politicians.
be the flavor of the month, Ignite.
Exactly, for the right reasons, obviously. Obviously politicians having a go at you, having a go at Daily Maverick, investigative journalism, but at the end of the day it all comes with the territory, and one obviously needs to just bite the bullet and continue. But again, it's about looking at, I think, even the Marikana massacre. I think there was something with regard to the South African journalism with regard to Marikana massacre. Now, all these things playing out at the end of the day, but you owe it. You owe it to yourselves, but also at the same time, you owe it to your readers, to you owe it to your audience, and people that actually subscribe to what you're writing and what you're telling them.
For sure. I mean, numerous studies in South Africa will show you that the media is often criticized, but that it is regarded as it has higher trust levels than perhaps political forces, political institutions like Parliament, like the executive do. I think our media, our free media, along with our judiciary, along with our civil society, these are the things that will keep our country on track and ensure that we don't become this form that many people have begun to write about, and that is a failed state. I think because we have these strong institutions, it'll be our protection in the long run, as well as of course the great charitable instincts of South Africans.
Yes, and also, Ferial, I think many people fail to understand the power of the media. And I think, with the right approach, with the right attitude, you can go places. And what amazed me is throughout the entire month of August, where we featured women in the media, the amount of Muslim women that have actually made their mark in the media, and there's still so much opportunity. Now, for someone like yourself, a seasoned journalist who's been there, who's seen it all, and perhaps just a word of advice perhaps to look at women in particular who want to make their mark and who want to make a name for themselves in the media space.
I just love watching the young women in the media taking their positions of leadership. Your Hadija Patels, your Umamas, your Kanita Hunters. So many people are just owning their spaces, and that's lovely. Because when I started, I think I must have been one of few black women journalists, but also I think a real minority of Muslim women journalists at the time. And it's lovely now to see the way the media space has been opened up. And I guess if there's one caution I would have is to yes, exercise your voice, be rooted in your community. But perhaps what I didn't get quite right is the balance, and to realize that family, community, these are vital aspects of being human, and that keeping that balance is really important. I haven't always done it successfully, and now later in life you realize how crucial that is to your ability to be human, to practice Ubuntu, is to remember those things.
Well, Ferial, just finally, you've achieved so much, and as I mentioned, we actually we congratulate you. We are proud of what you've achieved. What is still there for you to do? I mean, what are some of your ambitions?
So I don't I guess now I just love doing local journalism. I enjoy sometimes I'm horrified by covering Johannesburg, but my commitment now is really to explore this field of local journalism, to understand how Johannesburg works, and then to move out into rural areas and really focus on very local journalism, because I find that it's something that's been lost. So if I'm gonna spend time now, it'll be in those areas. I've covered the world, I've covered the big stories, but I'm very interested now in coming home and doing community work, in returning to community. So that's probably what I would spend the next few years, I hope, getting right, because there's lots of lovely examples in the world, like in Detroit and elsewhere, that I'm trying to study and then implement it back home.
Well, I'm sure you're still going to go places, Ferial, inshallah, and our du'as are with you. But I must say, it's been an absolute pleasure to acknowledge you, to showcase you, to recognize you in this final segment of Women in Media right here on Salam Media. And we wish you all the best. Our du'as are with you. And obviously, we will stay in touch. We've had a wonderful association together with yourselves and the Daily Maverick, together with Salam Media. And, I would just say is we complement each other so well in terms of what we do. So, inshallah, looking forward to future engagements.
Jazakallah Inayat, and for all your help many times. And I very much appreciate today's interview.
Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.
Ferial Haffejee with us this morning on the final Women in Media series that we've had throughout the month of August, showcasing and recognizing the achievements of women in the media. And I must say, it's been a wonderful series, and it's something that we need to package, I would say, for future reference, just to recognize what women have achieved, and we are definitely proud of them. And with that, we're coming to the end of this morning's edition of News and Views. It's been great being in your company once again. Next up is Juice 15 by Sheikh Yasser Al Dosari. And with that, until we meet tomorrow, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.